Good morning. Good morning, everybody. So good to see you, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh. It's Sunday, November 9th of 2025. I am the Reverend Dr. Kate R. Walker. I use the she, her pronouns, and I'm honored and delighted to serve as the minister of this beloved community. For those with visual disability, I'm a middle-aged, light-skinned female with mid-length, light brown hair. I wear glasses. I have a red patterned blouse on with a stole featuring paw prints. And you, my beloved, are all welcome here. If you are watching on YouTube now or in the future, we are delighted that you have chosen to be with us. And if you are here in our pews, welcome. If you are a longtime member, welcome back. And if you are brand new, you just walked in today for the first time, you get extra bonus points for courage to coming into a new church. And we're delighted to have you. Please, if you are new, introduce yourself. We have a welcome desk here in the garden lobby to your left, and let us know who you are and what you're looking for. And if you're online, please sign up for our MailChimp newsletter. It's on the main page of our website, or send an email and just introduce yourself and tell us about your religious journey, wherever you are. We are a multi-faith community, constantly seeking questions and puzzles and conundrums. We are on spiritual journeys as a multi-faith community where we celebrate diversity, questions are expected, where tears are welcomed and laughter is elevated. Welcome, just as you are, whomever you love. We have a lot going on in this community. I have to say, there's nothing that is boring about this community. Just saying. So right after service today, you're welcome to join me in the Foz room. We'll start about 15 minutes or so after the end of the service in the Foz room. That's my room. We're having a changing of rooms. I don't know where I am. I'm in the Schweitzer, excuse me. Yes, I knew that. I'm in the Schweitzer room after service. Right now, I'm in the sanctuary. I got that piece. After the service, I will be in the Schweitzer room. Yes, but in the Foz room. Okay, why am I in the Schweitzer room? Let's get back to the topic at hand. I invite you, if you are curious about what the heck I'm going to be doing during my sabbaticals and study leave. So between January 1st and June 1st, I will be off for 5 months. And if you are curious about how I'm going to occupy my time, trust me, it is already filled. I don't know how that happened. I haven't even left yet. I will not be in the Schweitzer room during that 5 months. But you are welcome to come and find out more about what those activities are and understand what a sabbatical and a study leave is and how it can also support this community for that time off. And also, what are the plans for who is going to lead worship? Who is going to be in charge around here? Who is going to be making decisions? All that and more will be revealed. What is going on in the Foz room is the Parents' Covenant Group. Parents' Covenant Group in the Foz room, building and grounds. You're meeting in the Priestley, and Colonel Mustard is in the kitchen with the wrench. Next Saturday on November 15th, I am absolutely delighted that we are hosting the Pittsburgh Cluster Annual Assembly. It starts at 9 o'clock. You can register on site. You can register through our newsletter, which comes out with that. We do need a few more volunteers just to welcome all these lovely guests from other Pittsburgh churches. And also, the Pittsburgh cluster is loosely defined. It actually includes all of Western Pennsylvania, all the way from Erie to Meadville to, and Morgantown. Very loose definition of Pittsburgh cluster. Yes, so we are absolutely delighted to be hosting this grand event. And On the holiday schedule, in case you have missed it, the annual Thanksgiving lunch is Sunday, November 23rd. It's right after worship, and you can sign up today or next Sunday, but the deadline is next Sunday. So this is a grand event, and please, and if anybody has a financial barrier to attending, just let me know, and we will take care of you. There should be no barrier to enjoying our meal. On Tuesday, November 25th, is an interfaith Thanksgiving service that I will be participating in, and this year it's being hosted at the Church of the Redeemer, 7 p.m. on Tuesday the 25th, and over on Forbes. Okay, we're not done yet. Sunday, December 28th, we're going to have a worship. We are not having a worship service. But we are looking for somebody who is really excited. What? What did I say? Yes, Sunday, December 28th. We are not having a worship service, but we're looking for somebody who's really excited about hosting a pajama PJ party with some bagels and cream cheese and stories and maybe some songs. So we just needed for a couple volunteers who are willing to do that. Okay, is that enough? No. That's enough for now. Yeah. Phew. Beloved, I know these are difficult times for some of you, members and friends, financially. I do invite you that if in any way you are worried about buying groceries or paying your bills, please come see me. We have a special fund, the discretionary fund, where I can provide assistance for you. Just send me an email, give me a phone call, see me after service. Now, let's all arrive, including myself, in body and spirit. As we arrive feeling connected to one another in this time and space, to people around Pittsburgh, to Unitarian Universalists around the country, and to all who gather in worship. We turn to our chalice lighting now. The symbol of our faith, of Unitarians and Universalists, with a light shining brightly. This month, we are looking at the theme of courage. I invite you to start reflecting, if you have not already, about what gives you courage. How do you cultivate courage in your life? What brings you forward to act with courage in this day and time when it feels so frightening to use one's courage? I welcome you all. I invite you to stand as you're able in body and spirit. 298, Wake Now, My Senses.
With the Well, hi, I'm Ward Kelsey, your liturgist for this morning. I'm, about 6 feet tall. I am a little bit overweight. I have got even less hair than I've got common sense. I'm wearing a green plaid shirt and a tan jacket today. And I invite you to join in our collective reading, which you can find, well, right up here if you need it anywhere else, but it's also in the order of service. We name our collective recommitment to care for the earth, knowing the ground we live upon is sacred. We pledge to bring new life to the earth, new life to the air, new life to the waters, new life to each other, for all life is sacred.
Can everybody hear me? Kind of, sort of? There it is. All right. Welcome. I'm Erica Shadowsong, Lifespan Religious Education Director. I'm wearing a purple shirt and gray pants, and I think I have a grayish head wrap on my head. And I've got a complicated story about the parts of the brain arguing with each other. And if you think I'm going to memorize that story, you have too much faith in me. But I am going to invite the young children and young at heart to come and see the pictures that I'm going to put out so you can see how many interesting parts of the brain there are. This is really, really neat. I'm going to put them out right here so you guys just get comfortable where you can see them. Yep. Once upon a time, the various parts of the brain got together to discuss their contributions to the uniqueness of the human body. Each part of the brain thought the human ought to know that it was the most important in determining what it means to be human. You know, said the brainstem, you really could not breathe without me. He was the oldest part of the brain, at the very bottom. Let me see how special you feel with no oxygen in your lungs. Now the diencephalodon, the next part moving upwards, chimed in. Yeah, but I produce hunger pains to let you know when to eat. Without me, you would starve. You guys can feel free to spread out and look at these if you want. Now the limbic system tried to talk, but nobody let it. Because the other parts rudely told the limbic system, all you have is animal impulses. You're causing some of the biggest problems that humankind has, so much violence. And then a grand voice spoke, the cerebral cortex. Everyone who has spoken so far belongs to what humans like to call the primitive brain, explained the cerebral cortex. I am what makes humans unique. I present to you the 4 lobes of greatness. And each of the cerebral cortex's lobes then spoke. I am the occipital lobe. I am involved with vision. I am the parietal lobe. I receive sensory information from all the body. But that's not all. I also take the letters the occipital lobe sees, or the letters I feel, if we're using Braille, and I form them into words. Then I string the words together to form thoughts. The other parts of the brain were pretty impressed, and they applauded. Though a bit of a braggart, the parietal lobe had the decency to blush. Now the bar was set a lot higher. Hey, wait, shouted the temporal lobe, also part of the cerebral cortex. You forgot to mention that you too are involved with emotions. You aren't just dealing in reason. Within your folds is the orbitofrontal cortex, or OFC. I know because we're good friends. and communicating all the time. The OFC integrates emotions into the decision-making process. Yeah, OFC and I are buddies too, said the limbic. It is always in touch with us, our primitive brain parts. Before you make any decision to act, frontal lobe. The OFC has checked out how the person feels about the action needed and decided which is the best thing to do. You couldn't make that decision without consulting the parts of the brain responsible for emotions, and those parts, turns out, are all over the place. The old idea that human beings are mostly rational animals is outdated. Even you, frontal, the most rational part of the brain, even you consult emotions to do your job, which is conscious decision-making. In fact, the OFC piped up, it had been present all along, but preferred to work behind the scenes. Conscious decisions are not literally conscious at all. All decisions involve some unconscious processing that happens before the consciousness is even aware that a decision needs to be made. The unconscious thoughts are influenced by emotions, yes, but also strongly influenced by memory. We, the brain parts, ask ourselves, have I encountered this situation before? And we use the answer to inform the decision. Therefore, the human's previous experiences and even their habits inform your actions on a conscious and unconscious level. Well, that was quite a speech from the orbital frontal cortex. And it was very sobering, and they listened. And then finally, be careful of your habits and actions or deeds, said the temporal, thoughtfully. Likewise, said the parietal, be careful of your thoughts and your words. Wow, we really are wise when we work together, said another voice. It was the whole brain. And with that, we are going to go ahead and rise and sing, is it 10-10, as usual, and go to our classes. Thank you.
Well, it's about time for the collection. Our religious community is made up of volunteers and staff, creating and hosting a variety of programming. We rely on your financial support. In addition to the collection plate, you can donate by texting GIVE to 412-435-1050 and following the directions. Please check the end of the order of service for more directions. Now, every month, we share our generosity with a designated organization. This month, it is, sadly, appropriately, the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. All donations are shared 50-50 with this organization unless otherwise designated. So I now invite the ushers to come forward, and I will hand them the collection plates.
My beloved, I know we have many sorrows and broken places in our hearts. I invite you now in this time and space to think about ways that we can help mend, help heal, perhaps sharing with one another. It deepens our strength and our bonds when we do so. And I know we have many joys, and I invite you to please share those. We need them. The birthdays, the anniversaries, the small celebrations. This is what creates a community's connections with one another. I invite us now into a time of silence, where you are invited to enter a time of meditation or prayer. As our hearts come together in this time and place, as our bodies share this sacred space together, made holy by our presence, we bring our voices and our tears and our laughter and our presence together in this place to connect, to remind ourselves of all that is holy, all that is precious, and all that we value. We hold up our greatest value of love. We hold up our greatest value of compassion and generosity and justice. And we call out in song and word and deed, and we hold it broadcasting out into this world, so desperate to hear of these values, of this holiness, of the healing. Let us be a beacon in our lives for one another. Let us be voices in the darkness. Let us be guides in this place where we craft justice, where we craft equity, where we craft transformation for one another. Let us be reminded of the power of love, the gift of life itself, and the joy that we find when we come together. Blessed be. Amen. Ashe. I invite you to stay seated with our response 1009 in the Teal hymnal, Meditation on Breathing.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
I particularly like that piece because when I'm in voice, my voice is a sort of a bass baritone, and that drone of breathe in, breathe out just takes me away when I get into it. Anyway, so I invite you now to join me in a responsive reading, number 592. Words are on the screens, and also at number 592 in the gray hymnal. I will read the words in regular type, and you can respond in the italic. These are the words of William Ellery Channing, one of the true fathers of Unitarian Universalism in this country. I call that mind free which masters the senses and which recognizes its own reality and greatness, which passes life, not drink, and hungering, thirsting, and seeking after righteousness. I call that mind free which jealously guards its intellectual rights and powers, does not content itself with a passive or hereditary faith, which opens itself to light whensoever it may come, which receives new truth as an angel from heaven. I call that mind free which is not passively framed by outward circumstances and is not the creature of accidental impulse. Radiant signatures of the infinite spirit, and in them finds help to its own spiritual enlargement. I call that mind free which protects itself against the usurpations of society and which does not cower to human opinion. Uses the sway, the tool of the many or of the few, and guards its sphere itself as nobler than the empire of the world. I call that mind free which resists the bondage of habit, which does not mechanically copy the past, nor live on its old virtues, which new and higher monitions of conscience, and rejoices to pour itself forth in fresh and higher exertions. I call that mind free which sets no bounds to its love, which, wherever they are seen, delights in virtue and sympathizes with suffering, which recognizes in all human beings the image of God and the rights of God's children, and offers itself up a willing sacrifice to the cause of humankind. And I call that mind free which has cast off all fear but that of wrongdoing, and which no menace or peril can enthrall, which is calm in the midst of tumults and possesses itself through all it is.
I have never been to the island of Santorini, but I stared at it from just off its coast. I was standing on a ferry, unable to step upon the shores that I so yearned to experience. That beautiful island of Santorini is off the coast of Greece, the southern Aegean Sea, white alabaster houses over its hillsides, moderate temperatures year-round. It's the promised land of blue beauty, generosity, happiness. It was my vacation utopia in my junior year of college, in the height of summer vacation. And I was standing on a ferry dock that was desperately trying to dock itself with wind pushing hard in a summer gale. Many of us who were ready to disembark were standing there as the ferry backed in, getting closer, and finally the crew got one of those big, giant ropes onto a piling, and the captain tried to pull in, backing into that dock, and that rope began to push against the staircase that had yet unfolded, still sitting there halfway up, and the wind began to push harder and harder and harder, and the rope pushed against that staircase, and it began to mangle in screeching metal. And I felt a panic growing inside, and I wanted to scream as everybody was desperately trying to stay upright with the rocking of the boat and the pushing of the wind, and it pushed harder and harder, and we looked at each other and wondered what was going to happen, and our panic grew, and then snap. That rope, that giant rope, went like a thread, gone, and the captain hit the throttle. I never saw Santorini again. Maybe someday. I think about that experience in today's U.S. political, economic, religious windstorm, where we're feeling like we're all on a boat, unable to dock. We're engaged in this violent storm. They were being pushed off course, and there is the promised land of justice, of equity, of generosity, of compassion, of love. And it is there, just there on the shore, but the wind won't let us land. We need courage like never before. Courage, our theme of the month, seems inadequate in just one word, but it says so much. We need courage to rebalance our boat with more thoughtful response to the populism's worst characteristic, fear. Our current chronic and highly anxious environment is filled with a heightened and exhausting emotional triggers, which is horrific for people who have any sort of PTSD with a trauma response built into our bodies. There are valiant attempts to grab the boat's navigation system, but it feels broken with frayed wires all over the place. Over the last 12 months, we have been through so much together. Psychologist Rabbi Edwin Friedman described a high anxiety system as this: a reactionary environment where emotional buttons are constantly being pushed. A place and a time where reasonableness and honesty can't defend against the massive emotional populist machinery. At a time where accepted ideas sound and function like superstition. This populism that has taken root demands and has an expectation for a quick fix, simple answers, pronouncements, either-or thinking, none of which will mollify the populist demands and to be relieved from their own self-created demons. Many of us are feeling small, vulnerable, like a hostage being held in emotional weaknesses of a president who is now buoyed by a strategic alignment carefully placed in federal appointments that are each engaged in daily horrific destruction. On January 20th, 2025, they launched an immediate storm, overwhelming the public media. And now we can't get a grip on any one event. Shock and awe was intentional to shut us down. Justice groups haven't been able to regroup and focus. Activist and author Naomi Klein wrote in No Is Not Enough, she lays out the long path of shock politics that have hijacked our country and countries all over the world. This type of leadership relies on panic and highly reactionary, fear-based people because it creates disorientation. It creates false fights and exhaustion. It opens the window for draconian and extreme regulations that are undermining our democracy and allowing corporate and neoliberal interests to dominate. And Klein lays out that the tactics of competition and the divisive racial and sexual politics capture the media attention while corporations maneuver behind the political scenes for unfettered freedom and power. The justice groups, liberal, religious, progressive faiths were caught off balance, unable to keep up, lacking strong, coordinated relationships with one another that are only now, a year later, beginning to regroup and focus a coordinated response. Part of this long delay is that progressives have traditionally relied on reason as the best way out of a crisis. If we just think hard enough, we'll get through this. But in this highly emotional environment, reason is unable to fill the needs of the people who are filled with fear. Reason doesn't work when we're in freak out mode. And how many of us have experienced bouts of freak out mode? Yeah. Some of you may be feeling uncomfortable this morning as I just went through that litany. But it is so important to name what is going on. I believe it's the time for reason defined as a thoughtful response is now. It was yesterday, but it's certainly now. And we are beginning to see shifts in the winds. Have you noticed? Many on the progressive side are finally emerging with renewed response, new precedents emerging every day in the resistance and has begun to focus. Example, 3 weeks ago, I attended a 2-hour training on Zoom with over 600 progressives from around the country. 49 states were represented. Hundreds more have access to the recording, which was hosted by Georgetown University with over a dozen interfaith nonviolent resistance groups, including Center on Faith and Justice, Sojourners, Interfaith Alliance, and our own Unitarian Universalist Socialist Justice Group out of DC. All were looking at the intersection of religion, of authoritarianism, and nationalism. It was one of the best and most powerful presentations I have ever had the joy to attend. It was focused on organizing a justice response to this overwhelming attack on our country. And let me note as a side here that next Saturday for our Pittsburgh cluster meeting, our own Pablo de Jesus, who is the head of Unitarian Universalist Social Justice, is a keynote speaker, and he was in attendance at that same Zoom training. I am so excited what Pablo is going to bring to us. Today's election, of course, Tuesday's election that happened last Tuesday gave us some light, wind headed in the right direction, hope from coordinated response. As furious as these winds have been blowing on our boat and that promised land has been there, We absolutely have to include both the heart and the head. And as we heard in Erica's challenging story, we have to include both. They're so integrated into our mind and our body. But as we begin to shift, I want us to pay attention to what that shift is. Where we're shifting from reaction to response, and they are different. React versus response. The key is timing. We react when we jump out of the way of a car that's headed directly to us. A response is to figure out how to not get hit by cars in the future. Reactions come from the gut, hormones, immediate fear. Response is measured, that prefrontal cortex thinking, reasoned responses. We do shift back and forth, and it's subject to the winds of time. Any headline can pop us back into reaction mode, back into stress mode. The current media, in fact, is designed to keep the population in fear mode, because when we're in chronic reactivity, we're easier to manipulate and control. When we are lodged in fear, we are easier to manipulate and control. Let that sit in your prefrontal cortex. We have to learn to respond more often. React only when absolutely necessary, not to false triggers. And religion has important principles, values, and disciplines that can help us balance our heart and mind, help us balance our reaction and our response. Let me offer this image from Thich Nhat Hanh. Imagine a boat full of people crossing the ocean. The boat is caught in a storm. If anyone panics and acts rashly, they will endanger the boat. But if there's even one person who is calm, this person can inspire calm in others. Such a person can save the whole boat. That's the power of non-action. Our quality of being is the ground of all appropriate action. When we look closely at our actions and the actions of those around us, we can see the quality of being behind those actions. I think Thich Nhat Hanh has something powerful to teach us, and how to maintain a healthier reactionary response. That is a more calm response. A big part of my job as a religious leader, as the minister of this community, is to be the calm, a non-anxious presence. Rabbi Friedman says it's one of the most important characteristics of any clergy in any faith, whether you're a rabbi or priest. And there are 3 ways to maintain a non-anxious presence. 1, be differentiated. Know myself. Have clarity of my life goals. I'm separated but connected. I'm grounded in values. I manage my reactivity. I regulate my emotions throughout the day as much as I can, calm, fully present in mind, body, and spirit. And I take responsibility for my emotional reactions. I name them. I own them. They're mine. I'm proud of them. And 3, be willing to take risks using creativity. Be willing to be transformed by life experiences. I think all of us can learn from this important lessons of being a non-anxious presence, of being differentiated, managing our reactivity, be willing to take risks. One of my favorite TV shows helps illustrate the differences in reactivity versus a non-anxious presence. I don't know how many of you got hooked on Madame's Secretary when it was out. Yeah. White House Chief of Staff Russell Jackson was a high anxiety. He carried the anxiety in almost all the scenes. He created wonderful drama, but he created health problems for himself and others. Well, the Secretary of State, Elizabeth McCord, and her husband and President Dalton, they were the calm, non-anxious presence throughout the show. They were good public leaders, while Russell Jackson carried on the drama of the show. It's a wonderful illustration of not necessarily the characters, but the roles that they played. Today, I invite you into an invitation to reflect how to manage the anxiety that we have within ourselves that bleeds into our larger communities, our families, our neighborhoods, our church. How do we create space for that non-anxious, more calm response? Because then we can access all the tools and the courage we need. First, start by facing reality. That requires courage, I know. We have to look at what's happening in the world and name what is happening as authoritarianism, an oligarch, and a Christian nationalism have grabbed control of our federal government. To build strength and a non-anxious presence, we cannot be in denial. I have still too many friends, personal friends, who say they don't look at the news, or they just grab the headlines, or they limit it. One day a week, they say. My friends, that's a privileged response. There are too many people whose lives are at stake, and I understand if any one of us has a trauma response in our body, we do need to care for that. And if we are a marginalized community, we need to care for that place in this world. But for those of us who can and are able and have that privilege, we cannot be in denial. The key is to manage that reactivity of being uncomfortable. All of us have different capacities for being uncomfortable, but we can manage it so that it motivates us rather than shuts us down. Second, stop blaming others. It's a waste of time. Stop blaming others. There's a wonderful quote from The Anatomy of Peace. It says, "Parties in conflict all wait on the same solution. They wait for the other party to change." So, should we be surprised when the conflict lingers and problems remain? Stop blaming others, which leads to, third, take responsibility for our feelings. Strengthen our capacity to respond is when we say, yes, I feel sad, I feel fear, and I feel courage, and I feel connected and love. All of that requires a courage, and that leads us to try something new. Develop a discipline, for example, of paying attention to how our bodies feel. Too many of us are cut off from our bodies, but my goodness, how can you go through life without knowing how we feel? Fourth, engage in meditative practice. Offer spiritual and a mental calm, even just for a few moments a day. It truly helps. Provide space for that inner turmoil to calm down. It's like an eddy in the waters between conflict and tension. Moments when we breathe and we lower the anxiety. Thich Nhat Hanh suggests try several times a day to take a long, slow, deep breath. Count to 5. This is one of my favorites. Long, slow, deep breath. Go out in nature. Sit, walk, absorb the leaves. Let it get into your pores of your body. Cultivate compassion for those that we fear or those that we have anger toward. Cultivate compassion. And be ready to act from strength. Solid feet on the ground. Breathing. And fifth, engage in acts of creativity. Sing, draw, paint, write, exercise, please, sleep even more, talk with friends. All of that is creativity. This is not a new message, my friend. This message has been around for a long time. We heard it in the words of our Unitarian ancestor, William Ellery Channing. Call that mind free which is not passively framed by outward circumstances, and is not a creature of accidental impulse, which is calm in the midst of tumults and possesses itself, though all else be lost. End quote. We've all experienced how contagious anxiety can be. When we're around somebody who's highly anxious, we start to pick it up. Non-anxious can be contagious as well. When we're the one being calm in the storm, when we're the one that's recognizing all the options for creative solutions to get us to that promised land, when that creativity is tapped, our hearts and our minds open up, and we can have that vision firmly in place, and it is so close, we just need to dock. We already know what that promised land looks like from the boat. When we look at it on shore, it is built by the values of justice and equity and pluralism and transformation and generosity and interdependence. And most of all, the hills are covered in love. Values that are compelling, emotionally and intellectually rigorous. A vision of connection, of care and consent, inviting in all those from the margins who are being cut out, because I promise you, they have been crafting the promised land longer than we have. Beloved, are you ready to help leap out of this storm of greed and corruption of our political system? Are you ready to build your courage with me? Are you ready to tell a different story than that's being offered by the shock doctors who are shoving it at us every day? Shall we offer a different narrative of love? My beloved, let us create as a progressive religious response that starts with breathing and a non-anxious presence in this storm of we build the promised land with creative, loved, thoughtful response. Will you join me? Amen. Blessed be Ashe. I invite you to rise as you are able in body and spirit. 331, life is the greatest gift of all.
Creatures great and small.
to add an addendum that Pablo de Jesus is also preaching next Sunday. Come and hear him preach as well. I am so excited. As we extinguish our chalice flame, the words are found in our hearts as well as various screens and orders of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go forth into this world, my beloved. Go forth into this world with your courage rekindled, with your courage guiding your words and your deeds as you breathe in to our very, very important response as we craft the promised land. Return again in love. In love. May it be so.